Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Love upon love upon love, all hearts are beating as one. Light upon light upon light, burning as bright as the sun. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. It's always good to start with a song. So welcome to Sovereign Earth. Just check, there's a few of you there. That's lovely to see you joining in. Somebody from Bromley, but their name's gone through. Anthea Taylor, Jolanda van Nooikamp from Netherlands, Louise Art from Brighton, I believe, and John King from the Wild West on the full moon eve. That's right, it is full moon eve. Full moon during this night ahead of us. So this is Sovereign Earth 56, number 56. I can scarcely believe it. Hearts and love and blessings going up, and a few more names welcoming you all in. So Sovereign Earth's vision is for humanity to hold nature as being sacred again. Wouldn't that be gorgeous? Wouldn't that be wonderful? That would be us in accord with the divine plan and with nature. For nature to be regarded as sacred by humanity. So each of these offerings, these beads on a mala or on a mandala or on a rosary, this is 56 out of a hoped 408, but we'll see. And it's about sacred sexuality and how could there be anything less important in a way? Sacred sexuality is a key to life and a key to connection, and we'll explore aspects of sacred sexuality, though I have to say in a short space of time to be able to do that in any depth. It will be just pinging a few neurons in the brain, a few pebbles in the pond, spawning a few ideas and hopefully making a few connections, some of which you might not have made before. I think we'll see. I've got an interesting sort of view on the mistletoe this night. So let's start with just a couple of quotes, just to give us a sense of where we're coming from. Okay. Your soul is your connection to the divine. Sacred sex is an activity of joining souls in holy celestial creation, expressing appreciation for the gift of life, of sharing your body's vitality with another. That's one way of expressing it. That was Brownell Landrum put that like this. This one from Marcus Allen. It's time we saw sex as the truly sacred art that it is. A deep meditation, a holy communion, and a dance with the force of creation. And finally for now, no amount of talking about sex is going to diminish the mystery of the experience of it. Sex is sacred, not secret. So I'm going to drop these pebbles in the pond, as I say, as I go through. connections, but where better as a druid for me to start than with sacred mistletoe. Now this is the remnants of some from the other day when we held Adrian and I collect mistletoe every year for many years now, about 15 or so, and we have a sacred mistletoe ceremony which some of you, I know some of you here, will have been part of. And the mistletoe as a starting point for an insight into sacred sexuality, so the all heal. I'm going to speak the words I spoke that night as part of the mistletoe ceremony. I am the spirit of mistletoe. I am the all heal. I hang suspended between earth and air, a bridge between the realms of the humans and the realms of the gods, that of the air and that of the earth and of mortal realms. My strong magic blends with that of my host tree to form a potent healing power. I am the tears of Frigga, the earth goddess, the goddess of love. Tears shed for her son Baldur, the sun god. Mistletoe is the sperm of the gods, impregnating Mother Earth to bring forth new life in abundance. I offer healing and protection for the body, for the spirit, and life renewed to the earth. So that's of this time. And the mistletoe is sacred for many reasons, and I'm going to touch on one or two. So it's known as all heal, love. So mistletoe hangs suspended, as it says in those words, between earth and air, a place between. And that's significant because it's between, you could say it's between Mother Earth and Father Sky, between the masculine and the feminine. It's a union of opposites. And of course in the tale of Frigga and Baldur, her son, I haven't got time to tell that tale tonight. I think I've told it. There was a specific program about mistletoe, Sovereign Earth, way back. You'd have to search for it, but there is a program on mistletoe. But this is touching on mistletoe. Now here's a couple of magical things. And if you're squeamish about sexuality at all, then this will probably touch your nerve endings. Because many of us have been brought up with sexuality as if not a taboo, then a shadow world. And so many of the words associated with sexuality, which can be and should be and could be and need to be embraced and owned and sacredized and honoured and respected. It's time for them to be treated in that way rather than playground humour. So as we know in those words, mistletoe is the sperm of the gods. Well, lo and behold, and some of us know this, but the berries of mistletoe are just like sperm. Now, if this is too much for you, it's time for you to put the cushion over your eyes. But I'm going to squeeze the berry, and it is just like sperm. These berries are like semen, the sperm of the gods. So that's the masculine principle, very clearly embodied and held within the mistletoe. And I think our ancient forebears knew all this far more intimately than we did, but it gets better. There's the masculine principle. And it goes on in those words, say, impregnating Mother Earth to bring forth new life in abundance. So the feminine principle, I'll tell you a short story. A few weeks ago, as part of lockdown, keeping connected, I was in touch with my old friends in Anderida de Gorseth. It's a grove, a moot, a meeting of pagans and druids to share ideas and just keep in touch. And this was probably end of November, beginning of December. And we were all talking about a topic, I can't remember what it was. And there were about 10 of us probably there. And one woman suddenly said, "You've all got these lovely pagan artifacts around you in your pictures. My room's bare, apart from one thing." And she held up this one thing, which I'm going to hold up in a minute for you, nearly. She held up this one thing, and it was a plastic artifact. And she said, in my day-to-day life, I talk to women about sexuality and their bodies and about healthy sexuality and healthy relationship to bodies. And she held up a bit of pink plastic, and two of us immediately said, "That's just like mistletoe." And what she said was, "This is a woman's clitoris." And she held up a piece of plastic that was exactly like that, or very nearly, and only it was pink. Now, that's a piece of mistletoe I collected today. Can you see it is incredibly accurate artifact and representation of the female sacred parts? So we have the male and the female. And our ancestors knew this. This is law and wisdom that's been lost. That's why the mistletoe is called all heal. You bring these two together and in love to form new life. So mistletoe as this embodiment of love, an embodiment of new life and sacred sexuality. So let's have a song to celebrate that. So the song that celebrates that for me, it's a song to the mistletoe. The words I came up with, the tune came from elsewhere, but above and below and all around you are, above and below and all around you are. You are the essence of love, divine mistletoe. You are the essence of love, divine mistletoe. Sacred one, source within and beyond. Sacred one, source within and beyond. Small wonder that we kiss under the mistletoe, hey? Healthy fertility, new life. So I'm going to just, there's setting the scene, if you like, embodied in nature. When we practice sacred sexuality, we are working with cosmologically rooted principles, balancing the heavenly yang, the male energy of the universe, with the all-knowing, life-giving yin, the feminine energy of the earth within ourselves. So sacred energy is bringing those principles, the yang and the yin, bringing them together. Where two or more are gathered with one common goal of love, there is the presence of God, of Goddess, of the divine. That was from Michael Mirda. We are the embodiment of the love behind and beyond lovemaking. So we're that embodiment of what is behind and beyond lovemaking. For sexuality to reach a level of being called sacred, it takes full cooperation of healthy and aware partners and healers. So there's a pact, a partnership at work. Every breath taken in, whoa, by the woman who loves, and by the man who loves, goes to fill the water trough where the spirit horses drink, where the spirit horses drink. Every breath taken in, whoa, by the woman who loves, and by the man who loves, goes to fill the water trough where the spirit horses drink, where the spirit horses drink, where the spirit horses drink. Pebbles in the pond, neuron connections in the brain, thoughts to ponder on. Let's proceed. Well, here's a comment, here's a quote from Wilhelm Reich. He said, originally and naturally, sexual pleasure was the good, the beautiful, the happy, that which united us as humans with nature in general. When sexual feelings and religious feelings become separated from one another, that which is sexual was forced to become the bad, the internal, the diabolical. So what he's talking about, I think many of us understand and know, possibly from our own childhoods or from our own religious upbringings. Not all, not everyone, but many of the patriarchal monotheistic religions both subjugate the woman and subjugate sex, or sacred sex. But let's have a look at the word. We'll come back to that in a minute. But sacred, the word sacred. The word sacred is to be holy, revered, blessed. I'd add honoured and respected, but that's holy, consecrated. That's another word, consecrated and revered. So that's sacred, because we're talking about sacred sexuality. But the noun, the sacred, the original word for, it comes sacra, as in sacrament, and sacred. But the singular, the noun, is sacrum, the sacrum. Now, how interesting is it? And clearly in our original language, we knew, because the sacrum is that small triangular bone at the bottom of the spine, and it's in the place where ancient tantric and other mystical and body-based sacred sexual honouring paths honoured the sacrum as sacred at the bottom of the spine, because that's where the kundalini arises, the kundalini energy, and it flows up to the heart. But the word is there, the clue is there, sacrum. But what's even more amazing, when in the act of sacred union, we're at one with the cosmos, with the earth, with all beings. This was the original, pre-Christian, pre-religious as we know it. But in indigenous cultures, that connection, we were part of the one. The word Pan, the god Pan, is all. We were in everything, and everything was in us. And in the art of lovemaking, and in the act of lovemaking, when that sacrum energy, the sacred sexual cosmic life force energy flows up, it stimulates the parts of the brain that recognize pattern. So it's as if it is that we are connecting in with the great pattern of the universe. connecting in with the great Tao, the great synchronicity of life in its true web form. So lovemaking is this key and this clue to becoming unified and being reminded and connected back to source through lovemaking. But how amazing, sacrum, and that it connects with the part of the brain that is to do with pattern, that recognises pattern. But also we talk about, in sacred sexuality, involution and evolution. So the involution of spirit, drawing it down, and the evolution of the body, drawing it up and uniting it in the heart. Now I've got various crib notes just to remind me. Yeah, of course. So indigenous cultures have a generally, and not invariably, but more likely to have, let's put it that way, a healthier relationship with natural sexuality, and not have it as some dark and dirty secret or shameful. It's part of the whole, it's part of the universe. But of course, yes, I mean, in our culture, Christianity came along, and I'm not knocking Christianity in its entirety, but in terms of its relationship to sexuality, I would say is not healthy. Look what happens with the suppression of sex. When sex is equated with bad and with dirt and with shame, it's pushed into a corner, and look what happens in the Catholic Church: paedophilia and abuse, because it has to be brought into healthy embodiment, sacred awareness. Yeah, and sacred with modern religions they impose sacred as a kind of edict. Sacred is a given. This is what you're told what's sacred. Whereas in an indigenous and healthy relationship to the sacred and to sexuality, it's something with which one is in awareness, in communion with, an awareness and a communion and a conjunction. It's implicit rather than, and implicit and experiential rather than imposed and dictated. So this problem of modern religions often having regarded sexuality as somehow separate from the body, not just sexuality, spirituality have been divorced and separated out from the body, and that needs to change, and it is changing. And this is part of why this particular module, this particular offering of Sovereign Earth, I think it's so important, because these are all the topics not taught in schools. But why aren't we taught this in schools? Why is it that my poor dad, bless his soul, whose birthday is today, actually, or would have been, he'd have been 115. How amazing is that? Yeah, when it came to him telling me about sex and sexuality, he was a good dad. He loved me dearly. He had not the foggiest clue how to do it. And he was an atheist, ardent atheist, sort of really, he couldn't stand religion. But he was married to a staunch Catholic. And there was love in action. They loved each other. It didn't matter that they were different in their beliefs. He had no clue. And Mum, bless her soul, gave him a Catholic book from the church on what sex was. Fortunately, I'd heard a few different stories in the playground by then. But goodness me, how sad actually, and what a burden we put on ourselves and our loved ones by not being able to talk freely and openly and honestly, with reverence, with honour, with respect, and particularly our boy folk, working with the boys in the woods, the teenage boys who I'm part of a mentorship team. How important it is to bring through healthy, honouring, respectful, sexual awareness. Our women need to be honoured. That's the key to that vision for humanity to regard nature as being sacred once more. the key to that is for women to be regarded as sacred once more. So it's fitting it's the full moon tonight. So I've gone on, I've missed out various bits. Oh, I know one thing I wanted to say. I was thinking years ago about the difference between having sex and making love. Or I think having sex is much more to do with the ego and taking. It's much more self-centered. Whereas making love is much more, to my mind, about sharing, about with a partner, receiving and giving and creating something beyond. Whereas having sex can be all about taking. So here's some words from Charlie Chaplin to his daughter in a letter. I've read this before on the episode on soul, but it fits here so perfectly. Your naked body should only belong to those who fall in love with your naked soul. Good old Charlie Chaplin. Message to his daughter, wisdom there. This one, aligning with yourself and then another, and then you both aligning yourselves together further in harmony will summon source energy in ways you couldn't imagine. That's from a guy called Shalom Melchizedek in Cosmic Sexuality. Here's one to get your head around, eh? Here's an important one about boundaries. Having clear boundaries, which is so important in sacred sexuality particularly, but in life. Having clear boundaries means we're in touch enough with the healthy, loving part of ourselves to know what does and doesn't work for us, what does and doesn't work for our higher good, and to choose accordingly. Okay, I think it's time for another song. Everything is sacred, everything is pure, everything is sacred, everything is pure. When I see with eyes of love, when I hear with ears of love, when I hold with arms of love, everything is sacred, everything is pure, everything is sacred, everything is pure. When I hear with ears of love, when I see with eyes of love, when I hold with arms of love, when I open with my heart in love. Ad-libbing there a bit. So, yeah, the biggest misconception about sex, and this is where I feel really sorry. I feel sorry at one level, sad at one level, but also inspired at another. This is where the work lies to encourage our children and our children's children to come into a healthy relationship with themselves and their sexuality and the sexuality of sacredness. So I touched on the fact it's regarded as dirty, forbidden, shameful, wrong, whereas in truth sex is sacred, not so much in a churchy way, but in a cosmic energy way. It's sacred in terms of this cosmic connection. A physical act providing a direct link, a direct connection to the divine. This is the wonder of making love. It gives us the direct connection to the divine and to love. So sexual, spiritual and creative energies are all linked and all part of that whole. And a core function of healthy sex is vitality and fertility. Obviously, none of us would be here, would we? We were all conceived in this union of opposites, linking in and connecting with the divine. At its best, we were. Maybe some of it was. We're all part of that life force, that striving for connection with Source. So sex is this immense and universal life force that can merge your spirit, divine essence, with the body. I've talked about this involution of spirit, evolution of physical ascending energy, meeting at the heart in an explosion of pure love. And that's what sacred sexuality can and does do. Of course, sacred sexuality, this is the nub, we get to one of the nubs of our current life and current culture. Sacred sexuality is completely counter almost to what our culture normally presents as the sexual act. What's the common perception amongst far too many, especially men, I'd hazard to suggest, is it's externalized. It's objective. It objectifies women, objectifies sexuality. Women are capable of this too, so let's put that in the mix as well. Our culture encourages sex to be externalized, possibly far too much concentration on the visual, on the fantasy and the phantasmagoria and the charm rather than the essence. And of course that can lead and produce orgasm. But the fascinating thing about an orgasm, and yes, an animalistic, we could call it an animalistic orgasm, it's reckoned that they've done studies to suggest, okay, you'll get 22 seconds worth of sex out of that, whereas with sacred sex it's a lot longer. That's one of the features of it. And of course there's a place for what I call passionate, wild force sexuality in the mix. That is really a key part of it, is that wildness, but and although it's unbounded in the moment, it's harnessed within a bigger boundary of reverence, respect and honor. That's the key. So that form of sex that I was talking about, which of course is sort of rampant because of the amount of porn on the internet, that is causing mayhem amongst our young folk and older folk and all folk, that pornography is so readily available and so graphic, and objectifying the sexual act and divorcing it, taking it out and away, rather than that connection with that inner. Why is the sacred sex so coveted? Because it's the connection with the divine. It takes us into the transcendent, the transformative, and that life-changing place. It's the Holy Grail. It is one way of looking at it. Sacred, true, beautiful, embodied, shared sexual act in a sacred way is as close to the Holy Grail in one way as you can get. And then again, the Holy Grail is love, so why wouldn't it be? Couple more quotes. Behind every shallow interaction, there hides a person who does not want to see or be seen at a deeper level. I think there's a lot of truth in that. There's another one here, Elizabeth Cunningham. So I say to you, if you're burning, burn. If you can stand it, the shame will burn away and leave you shining, radiant, and righteously shameless. This one from Michael Meerdad again. When a man looks at a woman only as an object of potential pleasure, he does not see the woman herself. He misses the essence of who she really is, the treasures she holds in her heart, and the potential their relationship offers. To experience the most profound levels of sexual ecstasy, we must be willing to release, even if only temporarily, the drive for explosive orgasms and surrender to a quest for self-discovery and healing. One more and then I'll move on. This one from David Deida, who's done some great work in men's groups. Your only real choices, he says, your only real choices are to open fully and receive their gifts. I think he's talking in relation to women there. Or crucify them and be relieved of their force. But you must be willing to feel your heart's terrors and wounds, or else you will close and protect yourself, striking back at the source of openness you most yearn to become. And there is this thing about the heart can remain closed. I think that's the having sex rather than making love. The heart can remain closed. And of course then one is stopped from bonding with the other. One of the great amazing things about lovemaking is the bonding that ensues. But we'll have another song before I talk a bit more, and then we'll do a visualization at some point, if you're still with me. And I remember I'm only touching on bare basics. There's probably weeks worth of material if it was being investigated more fully. I love you so, 'cause you help me see the beauty in you is the beauty in me, for I'm in you and you are in me, for I'm in you and you are in me. I am one now, I am one with thee, one with the skies and the clouds and the sea. I am one now, I am one with thee, one for all of eternity, for I'm in you and you are in me, for I'm in you and you are in me. It's a beautiful song and it's so true. I'm one now, I'm one with thee, one with the earth and the sky and the sea. One now, one with thee, one for all of eternity, for I'm in you and you are in me. It's a good way of connecting with the essence of sacred sexuality. Okay. So, now I just wanted to touch on how the practicals, just to touch on what it is about, what can help create a sacred sexual environment. And there's some simple tips, and you can delve much further. But first one is to get in touch with the fact that I am sacred, so you are sacred. That's the first thing, and to treat it as a sacred act, but not as something so precious you can't have a laugh or bring joy and playfulness in, but bounded in, as I say, respect and honour, and then allowing. So then to treat your partner as the divine, to let go of judgments, to let go of shame or guilt, to let go of anything which intrudes, which takes you away, which takes me away from being present in the moment. But then to prepare for sacred sex, key aspects often overlooked: cleansing, having a bath, being clean, being washed, pure may be a bit too far the word, but you know what I'm speaking of, and making the best of yourself. So tidying your hair, I can't do that obviously, but you know what I mean. Tidying your hair, putting on beautiful clothes, and sometimes if it's the right essence, but you have to be careful with that one. But then coming together, anointing each other with sacred oils, with sandalwood and rose, I think, a great combination. And then on the chakras, the crown, the brow, and all through the chakras, the heart, and down through the chakras to the sacrum. Anointing oneself and each other, make it a sacred act, make it an act of sacred sexuality, of divinity. And then touching forehead to forehead, third eye to third eye, and sharing several breaths together. And then in allowing each unionism, or each coming together sacred but unique, and you can't know, there isn't, back into the pool of unknowing, which I've touched on before, allowing, dropping that guard in mutual surrender, providing you're with a trusted partner, and exploring in awareness, and being present and looking into each other's eyes, and then whatever unfolds, but at the end, celebrating a joyous sharing of laughter, of touch, and maybe whatever fits, a gentle massage, a bit of chocolate, and candles, rose petals, all these things, sacred sexuality. And of course there was the tantric arts, which can be misunderstood or misappropriated, but in their true form and at their best, it's a pathway over thousands of years of techniques and procedures or ways of coming into connection with the kundalini, with the sacred, with the sacrum, with the heart, with your partner, with the cosmic life force. So I've touched on, I wanted to share a couple of love letters from poets as a way of connecting with divinity, with sacred sexuality. Same thing, isn't it, divinity? This one's from Bill Weber in his book, Love Letters from a Poet. Your inner thighs, like the petals of a newly opened lily, long, smooth, and sensually captivating, drawing me into the centre of the flower. So those words alone are quite erotic and stimulating, at least I find them so, and I know that that's one of the ways of connecting with this sacred energy. And I want to share a sacred poem from many years ago that I wrote, honouring the divine in the feminine, in the goddess, very much from this place. Written originally in honour of the mother of my children, who I was with at that time, but aware that it extends to all those I've ever been with, but to my current partner, especially at this time. But it extends to the goddess in all, from where I am, but to the union and the cosmic force, the life force, universally present. But this is offered to the goddess and to the sacred feminine. O Lady, thou art fair of face, blessed with beauty, poised with grace. Soft sunlight permeates your form as you reflect the golden dawn, contrasting with the silvery sheen of gilded moonlight in between. Stunning is the luminescence of your elusive lunar essence. O Lady, let me hear you sing as I in heaven strum the string, the one-stringed harp of joyous bliss, the magic, all-pervasive kiss, to feel your touch, to touch your feel, to breathe your breath, my heart, it reels. Then sink and swim and swim and sink. We teeter on the very brink of life's ecstatic, wondrous chord before we plunge into the ford and submerge souls in radiant throng. We've found the place where we belong, me in you and you in me, transcending all duality. So these are just a few different thoughts and angles on the same subject. But I'm going to invite us just briefly to share a visualization. If you care to, if any of it doesn't, if anything doesn't feel right, you just sit it out or take your own path. But just a simple connection at an experiential, personal level with what we're talking about, and it's very it's very simple and respectful, I believe. So closing our eyes and taking our awareness into our bodies with each breath. Into the body deeper with each breath, relaxing. And a third breath. And in your mind's eye, taking your awareness, you see yourself walking through a wood, barefoot. In fact, if you're comfortable with the notion you're bare altogether, you're naked as all the other nature is around you. The trees are bare, the grass is bare, and you are, if you care to be. If you're happier, then leave your clothes on. And you're walking, but you're certainly barefoot, walking on the lush grass through this wood and hearing the owl call as it just has outside here now. And hearing other birds. Maybe it's night, maybe there's a full moon as there is tonight. But it's not cold. You feel held, it's safe, you're protected. Then you smell the beauty of the earth and of the leaves and of nature. And you feel the breeze on your skin. And you walk through the woods till you come to a sacred grove. You may have been here before, many of you will have, but if you're new to this, it's just as fresh and beautiful as it is for each one of us. Sacred grove, a circle, large circle of trees, beautiful trees. Also unmasked, bare, naked before us. And somewhere in that circle of trees, or in the middle, you make your way to a special tree, a tree that you know to be special to you. And you lean your back against it, taking comfort and strength and succour from the energy flowing through the tree. And you relax into that place and just admire the beauty of it all, the moon above, full moon. And then before you, as if by magic, you see an aspect of yourself. You see your sacred sexual self in whatever form that comes to you. You see it. It can be he or she, depending on what is right for you and where you're from, who you embody. A figure, a form before you, embodying the best of who you are in your sacred sexuality. And then from somewhere nearby behind a tree or a rock emerges another sacred sexual form. It is the match for the one in front of you. It's the perfect match. So it can be whoever and however, whatever you like it to be. But it is the consort to the other. They come together. And in some way, they honour each other and merge. They become one before your eyes. And then they flow into your heart in that form. And you feel a connection with all of divinity, with all of the cosmos, a sacred union with all that lives, the sacred in all of nature. And giving thanks to the tree, you make your way out of the grove, gently, gracefully, simply, and back along the track, the moon in the sky above, the owls and the other birds around. It's a peaceful night. And you make your way back along the path, back to the space you're inhabiting now, which you left for that journey, back into this space. You bring yourself fully present in your body, breath into your heart, breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile, dwelling in this present moment. I know it to be a beautiful moment. So we didn't have as long as, ideally this would be at least a day, maybe a week, who knows, but this is just a glimpse at some elements or aspects of sacred sexuality to help stimulate your own inquiry, your own connection, your own awareness. In the art of sacred sexuality, our bodies meet to physically express what is felt in our hearts and souls. Tantra is primarily about uniting love, spirituality, and sexuality with awareness. Tantra is a complete science of self-realization based on the cumulative wisdom of centuries of exploration into the meaning of life and consciousness. That one was from Osho. Here's an interesting thought. The completion of the soul's journey is proportionate to our ability to integrate spirituality, our heart, and sexuality, our body. And finally, before one last song, last quote. The beauty and wisdom of Tantra, this is from Margot Anand. The beauty and wisdom of Tantra is that it enhances sexuality as a doorway to the ecstatic mind of great bliss. Truly at the peak of orgasm, we pierce through the illusion of fragmentation and separation and glimpse the unity and interconnectedness of all beings. And through the other, our partner, we fall in love with life. Beloved one, rest in me, rest in you, rest in me, rest in you, rest in me. Beloved one, Rest in me, rest in you, rest in me, rest in you, rest in me. For I was born to love you, I was born to love you. You set me free, 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 you set me free. That's the completion of Sovereign Earth 56 on sacred sexuality. I welcome towards my work any donations through jjmiddleway@hotmail.com on PayPal or the Enchanting the Void website. This is part of the gift economy, and I offer it for the greater good, and especially for our children's greater good, I hope. So may Sovereign Earth come to fruition with humanity coming to regard nature as sacred again. Hope to see some of you in 2 weeks' time for the next Sovereign Earth every fortnight. Not sure of the topic yet. A couple of ideas brewing. And of course, Earth Service every Friday. Our devotion in reverence and in mirth, in playfulness and prayerfulness, honouring the earth. And for now, I blow this candle out for the good of all of us. May we all flower in our sacred sexuality. May the world flower and flourish in its sacred sexuality, and may all beings flourish in love. Good night. Farewell. Lots of love to all of you. I see some hearts going up. Lots of love.